it's Becky here. So welcome to another new video on my YouTube channel. So today we're gonna have fun sketching these three mini tea tins. As you can see, they're tiny. These tea, they are made in England and they have traveled all the way to Canada for me to sketch them. We got a cylinder here, two rectangular prisms. Yeah, so this is my current sketchbook and I've been working on it since November the 21st. It's been about a month and a half now. Let's flip through these pages. Holiday vibes at my local cafes and staying cozy at home with my fur baby Dudu and treats. Last day of 2024 at one of my favorite cafes in New Westminster. And first cafe sketch of 2025. Some more fun sketches done at home. And this year I want to sketch more of Dudu in active gestures. This one is like he was perched on a windowsill. Cafe sketch at Wicked Cafe, a pretty well-known cafe in Vancouver. Drawing and painting this schoolhouse of Queen Alexandra Elementary School in East Vancouver. And next page. This was a rare, bright, sunny day on Sunday, January the 12th. So today I'm starting to fill this page spread. So the top of a cylinder standing in front of you below your eyes is no longer a perfect circle. It's a flattened ellipse. And just drawing the layers of curving lines to suggest the thickness of the cap. The bottom or the base of a cylinder is nice and round, and this one had a nice golden ring for the base, accentuate the contour outline of the base heavier. And now starting to draw the graphics on the package. This one has a hat on it, which probably represents Mad Hatter. Now I'm drawing the tablecloth of the banquet table. As you can see, the horizontal lines are curving, following the surface curve of the cylinder surface. And drawing Alice sitting on the chair, and the rabbit in the middle, the eyes, the nose, and the bowl. And the little arms, and then drawing Mad Hatter, starting with his tall hat, profile view of his face, and the bowl. And now I'm drawing the trees behind the characters, and suggestions of maybe buildings even far away, drawing these tiny little teacups and the folds of the tablecloths. And it's very satisfying to create these hatching lines to suggest the shadow of the table and the chair. Now I'm ready to draw the first tea box in rectangular prism shape. So the top is a visually distorted square, now seemingly like a trapezoid, suggesting the thickness of the lid and the shiny area along the corners. And these vertical lines on rectangular prisms are very straightforward. So here's the bending corner. I'm going to bend this line upwards towards the right and connect it with the last vertical line and the base of the tin tea box. And the heart probably represents the Queen of Hearts. And then drawing some more parallel curves. And this very round, soft corner suggested with two rows of loose segments of lines. Now I'm starting to have fun drawing these polka card people. Yeah, so these are the gardeners with spades on their card bodies. And then drawing these little lakes. Yeah, so according to the story of Alice in Wonderland, when Alice encountered them in the forest, they were painting the white roses all red, which is very strange. So a lot of parts of the story is quite confusing, but is very entertaining to read. So there are a lot of satires within the storyline, like the actions of those characters. Okay, now I'm ready to draw the tree in the middle that these gardeners are painting. The roses on the canopy of the tree, leaves using doodly lines. And the last character is actually in the middle, starting with the legs, the body, and the face. Now, because the right side of this box is very foreshortened into a skinny rectangle, the graphics of Alice walking into the forest is also looking squished, following the foreshortening phenomenon, and then adding accentuations for the lid and the base. Now, I'm starting to draw the last tin box. It's very much the same shape, but as we're drawing the same thing again and again, we're not really repeating. So as you can see, the two rectangular prisms that I just drew, they're not exactly the same. And drawing the teacup. Okay, so this is my favorite box of these three with a white rabbit on it. And starting to draw the face and the ears, the eye, and the cheek bulging, blowing on the trumpet, the collar of his suit, zigzag pattern of the folds on the collar, and the little trumpet. His hand holding onto it, and the little flag dangling on the trumpet, and his loose suit, a bowl, and probably his other arm holding on to his watch, and the scroll, and the graphics on his suit or robe, and his hind legs standing. Okay, and now I'm drawing this foreshortened side. So again, the Alice imagery is being foreshortened as well. I think he's trying to run away from the poker card soldiers around the end of the story. Yes, I really wish that in nowadays world, more package designs could be based on traditional classic stories, like Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so now I'm gonna paint using my Holbein water brushes, and this one is the Faber-Castell water brush, and it's really nice for doing the small refined details using the fine tip. And as usual, I'm gonna be using my Mungyo 24 color palette to paint. And there are actually also other amazing stories in the world as well. Now, I'm beginning to paint the background area first, behind the tin, actually underneath the tins. And yeah, using 2 or 3 shades of green to suggest the lawn area where the characters were having tea. And these days, I'm really enjoying painting these looser and random backgrounds with abstract gradient of colors instead of doing a simple platform. I still do that sometimes, but I want to change the game a little bit. And now I'm starting to shade the cylinder tin. The windows are on the left, so the right side of these boxes are shaded. And the bottom of the left sides are also slightly shaded. Now I want to intensify the darker shade on the right side of these rectangular prism boxes. So for these grays, I mixed permanent violet with cobalt blue and a little bit of viridian green. And the lids also need to be shaded. The right half of the circle is shaded more. Left half could be left almost paper white. Same for these distorted squares. Okay, now it's time to have fun painting the bright colors on these illustrations, starting with yellow as usual. So just using cadmium yellow to paint these areas that I see are yellow. And then the light greens for the trees and forest. And then the hats of these gardeners, red hearts on the rabbit's robe. And the red roses. And then painting these darker tones of brown for the tree branches and trunks. A brownish shadow underneath the table. A blue chair for Alice to sit on. And some green foliage green using Viridian green. And blend the brown a little bit to create a simple, quick transition of tones. Yeah, so the brown over the yellow glow looks so nice. And grabbing some skin colors for these card people. And shade the tablecloths more on the right hand side. Now it's time to paint these ring areas of the bases and the bottom of the lids using just pure yellow ochre. And I want to shade the right side of the lid a little bit heavier. So when we are shading a rectangular prism, you have to be consistent from top to bottom. Now it's time to paint the shadows, just starting with a fairly light gray, and then using a much sharper gray of any kind around the edges. Here's a look of my finished sketches of the tea tins. Okay, so now moving on, just going with the flow of the moment. I just pencil draft my house plant, the jade plant, and the two window panels in front of me. I'm putting my sketchbook and my filming tripod on Kitty Doodoo's cat tower, as you can see. And now I'm starting to draw the pot of jade plant, which is growing huge now. Yeah, so I just drew the pot and those major branches that I could see close to the soil. Now, Doodoo is trying to help. He's trying to help again. Yeah, and just drawing the leaves in small clusters on those branches. And then drawing the vertical lines of the layers of window frames and the wall in between the two windows. Some lines could be looser because there's a soft bend of the wall. And so trying to suggest the dining table below the windows. Now I'm starting to draw the first house that I see outside the lamp post. Just simplify what I see into these very simple basic shapes like trapezoids and triangles, rectangles. Yeah, and I just added a little tree there. And Doodoo is just having a short nap here. He's not going to stay for very long. And keep adding these smaller shapes like windows to suggest that these big shapes are really houses. And I just added some texture for the shingles of the roofs. A little fence dividing the two houses. And now I'm drawing the foreground tree outside the window, which is the maple tree that is growing taller and taller every year, stretching those branches. And yeah, just spotting those major branches that I see and join them together into the trunk area. And just taking the time, working out these branches slowly and meditatively. Okay, almost there. And here it comes down onto the trunk. And suggesting the root bulging above the ground and using these segments of lines to suggest the lawn, the driveway, and the curb. Yeah, so this line, it helps to show space and a sense of perspective defining the curb at the sidewalk. Now I'm doodling the car parked by the sidewalk, focusing on just the contour outline, and then install the wheels and accentuate the bottom, adding these rear lights and the license plate, rear window, side windows. Okay, now drawing the red car parked on the other side of the street is many steps away, so it's smaller than the car closer up. Same idea, contour outline, and just fill in the shape with these essential shapes, and that's it. Suggesting the curb on the other side of the street. And for things in the very far distance, you could just suggest them in very abstract lines and shapes. Yeah, just relax and keep it simple to suggest the houses. And Dudu just fell back to sleep again. Here's my finished line work of the view in front of me. So now I'm painting very lightly of everything below the sky with very diluted yellow ochre as underpainting. And now I'm just grabbing some cerulean blue and just keep dragging it on paper so it's diluted. Right there on paper, there are like thin clouds in between the stripes of blue sky. Yeah, so the color of the blue sky is actually very mild on a cloudy day. Okay, so I'm gonna keep the sky really simple. It's hanging there. Now, starting to paint the first layer of my houseplant by mixing yellow ochre with lime green. And just painting these highlighted leaves. Now, Dudu is done with his nap time as he's going down. Yeah, so I'm painting the whole pot of leaves with yellow-green because every leaf is somewhat highlighted, more or less. And then painting the lawn using pretty much the same yellow-green. And now shading these green parts a little bit by using Viridian green and a bit of burnt sienna mix in. On the lawn here, there seems to be a shadow. And mixing my own gray with cobalt blue and permanent violet to paint the shadow of the car. So the sun is coming in and out from the clouds. Sometimes the shadow is not strong when the sun is hiding. And painting the dark sepia of the rooftops using Van Dyke brown. Yeah, so these organic browns are nice to have among these greens. Okay, and another layer of Van Dyke brown to add even more density for the roofs. And the fence are also wooden brown. Shade the left side of these houses a bit. The sun is on the right. So since I started using this 24 color Mungyo watercolor palette, I'm discovering some new favorite colors to paint trees and bushes like olive green, olive brown, and Van Dyke brown. So I'm combining these three colors to paint the tree and intensify the shadow on the lawn a little bit. Yeah, and grabbing a bluish gray to paint the left side of the car. Again, the sun is on the right. The rear of the car is against the light. And painting the red car, which is a pretty dominant color. It's nice to have that red car there. Yeah, it's to spice up this ordinary scenery a little bit. And painting this tree here a little bit far down, suggesting the gaps between the sidewalk, concrete. And using olive brown and olive green to paint these little branches of my jade plant. Using Van Dyke brown to shade. Yeah, so these little branches are cylinders If you just shade one side of cylinder and leave the other side illuminated, they will look like cylinder shapes. And starting to shade these thick leaves using like a medium dark green, Viridian green, and a little bit of burnt sienna mixed into it for an even darker kind. Yeah, so at this stage, you have to be a little bit precise with your brush strokes. Just do a quick, precise punch on each of these little leaves and leave a shining edge of the previous layer of yellow-green untouched. Yeah, so these leaves, they need to shine. And now I'm shading the left half of this tree with a more intense brown, like Van Dyke brown. So the tree trunk and the branches, they're also cylinders. So shading on one side of those cylinders are very important to make them look three-dimensional. And now I'm painting my beige colored wall areas very lightly by mixing orange and permanent red together, diluted with a lot of water. It's very much like a skin color. And now I'm painting my flower pot loosely in the first layer with diluted Van Dyke brown and olive brown. Now I'm starting to shade it with a much more intense dark sepia. Yeah, mostly Van Dyke brown, using brush marks to suggest that it is a spherical shape. And there are a lot of reflections and intense shade on the surface. And my brush marks are always reasonable, wrapping around the longitude and latitude curves. Yeah, so when we're drawing and painting, you really have to imagine that you're trying to convey something that is truly three-dimensional instead of using a simple coloring book approach. And now I'm just using very diluted bluish gray to shade the wall areas a bit, very mildly. So the original color of the wall is still transparent, seeing through. So now I'm painting the mahogany dining table with burnt sienna and a little bit of pink mixed into it. And this, the thickness area of the table is shaded. And the tabletop is catching a lot of daylight, so not way too dark. Okay. And I want to shade the thickness area even further to show there's a big difference between the top and the thickness area. And using leftover gray to shade the window, that's pretty much it. Okay, so lastly, I'm gonna finish filling up this page spread by sketching something not too big and tall. So as you can see, I've got the square space over here that could be a perfect fit for this bread bun. And I got it from Walmart. And yeah, so now I'm starting to draw the contour outline of the plastic package and the razor lines for the top and bottom of pretty much all common packages, and paying attention to the dents on the contour outline for all sides. Yeah, there's a little dent there and it's expanding towards the bottom, finishing the razor lines and just connect the corner lines together. Now moving on to the inner details and drawing these loose ridges with broken segments of lines, and then paying attention to the surface folds of the plastic surface and some more ridges on the bottom. Yeah, just keep the lines really loose to show the shine of the surface. And another deep wrinkle here on the right. Now I'm just drawing the label of the bread right in the middle. It's a distorted oval because it's landing on an uneven surface. And yeah, and then drawing the stripes just as embellishment on the surface of the package. Some more gentle wrinkles. Drawing the bread inside, which is pretty much a semicircle. And then the rings of cream on the bread, some more small wrinkles, and the stripes on the package design. Yeah, so when I'm drawing these stripes, I'm paying attention to the bulging plastic surface. So these lines are not straight, but curving. And same for many of the wrinkles. And accentuate the edges. Now it's time to paint, starting with this bright, happy cadmium yellow. So as the sun is coming out, this bread is echoing with the sun in terms of shape and colors. Second layer is like an orange yellow. At the same time, I'm also coloring these little stripes with a light yellow base first, and then the darker yellow in between the lighter yellow stripes. Yeah, it's very satisfying to paint these abstract patterns like stripes and polka dots and others. Now, adding some orange brown now for the third layer of the bread, wet on, almost dry. So this tone won't fade out. So if a previous layer is still too wet, this nice tone, it could fade out. Now, using leftover bluish gray to gently shade the plastic package areas, leaving some parts paper white for the bright, glaring highlights. And then a darker tone of bluish gray to add the shadow of the bread and some slightly heavier areas, and just keep it gentle. And this pattern area is uneven, so part of it is shaded because it's going down, bending away from the daylight, especially here, and a little bit shade here. The middle is bulging outwards, and I'm painting the red logo. Now I want to give it a nice background, which is making it look more enchanted, using purple to contrast with yellow. Yeah, purple pink. That's a nice choice. And just spread it loosely around. So when painting the background, you don't have to paint the actual background of that object. You could use a completely different color. Now painting the shadow using purple blue, nice and gentle, wet on, moist. And that's it. Here's the look of my finished page spread. And thank you so much for watching this video, everyone. My thoughts are with those of you in California. I hope you are all staying safe. And yeah, so have a nice weekend. I will see you around in the next video soon, next week.